People often say life changes in sudden, sharp moments, but sometimes it shifts. Quietly, like clouds drifting apart, like shadows slowly softening under the sun. Like a heart opening when it didn't even realize it had been locked, and that is exactly what happened the summer I met him, that summer when shadows finally met the light, that summer when our story began, a story I now tell under the name What Happens When the Shadows Finally Meet the Light. True gay stories. The bus doors opened with a hiss, warm air rushed in, golden hour sunlight settled over everything like a soft blanket. I stepped out, suitcase in hand, heart pounding harder than I wanted to admit. Clearwater Ridge. Tiny lakeside town, quiet, too quiet for someone running from noise inside his own mind. I was 19, turning 20 soon, and I had convinced myself I needed this escape, the summer away from the city, away from questions, away from expectations I wasn't ready to answer. The place looked exactly like a postcard: tall pines, shimmering water, wooden cabins with faded paint, kids laughing by the pier, but my eyes stopped on one person, a guy probably my age, tightening a rope on a small rental boat. Sunlight hit his hair like it was made for him. He glanced up just as I looked away. Too late, our eyes met. Soft smile flickered on his lips, not flirtatious, not intense, just warm. My chest tightened. I pretended to adjust my bag. First time here, a calm voice asked. Beside me, I turned. It was him, closer. Now, closer than my heartbeat was ready for. Yeah, I said, my voice cracking just enough to embarrass me. He noticed. He smiled softly. Amelie, he said, holding out a hand. I shook it, trying not to overthink how gently he held mine, like he didn't want to let go too fast, like he always took his time with things. I'm Adam, I said, and just like that, the world shifted by one small, meaningful degree. Eli worked part-time at the lakeside. Rentals, boats, kayaks, paddle boards. He moved with easy confidence, like the lake belonged to him, like the sun liked him more than anyone else. Meanwhile, I kept to myself. I'd come here to breathe, to quiet my thoughts, to figure out why my heart raced around certain people, certain moments, certain truths I wasn't brave enough to face. But Eli made silence impossible. He appeared everywhere. The cabin porch in the morning, the paths by the lake, even the tiny general store. Sometimes he waved, sometimes he walked over, sometimes he just sat beside me without asking, and strangely, I didn't mind. Clearwater Ridge has a way of making people feel lighter, said one sunset evening, skipping stones on the water. And you, Adams, you look like you've been carrying something heavy for a long time. My heart jumped. I swallowed hard. Is it that obvious? He shrugged a little. He smiled. But shadows don't stay shadows forever. The line hit me deeper than it should have, maybe because it sounded like a line straight out of What Happens When the Shadows Finally Meet the Light. True gay stories, maybe because for the first time it felt like someone genuinely saw me. Days passed softly, like warm water over stones, like sunlight on closed eyelids, like breath. We spent more time together, not planned, not forced, just happening. Sometimes we talked about nothing, sometimes everything, sometimes he brushed against my arm and my chest felt too small. One warm afternoon he asked, want to see something cool? I followed him into an old greenhouse Behind the cabins, the inside was humid. Glowing with soft greens and golds, he plucked a small lemon leaf and crushed it between his fingers. Smell, he whispered, holding it near me. I leaned closer, too close, the citrus scent mixed with something warmer, his skin, his breath. My heart raced. He noticed, his eyes softened. You okay? He whispered. I nodded too quickly. Yeah, just warm. He gave a soft laugh. Not mocking, more like he understood. He moved past me, his hand brushing my shoulder lightly, a simple touch, but I felt it everywhere, in that glowing greenhouse surrounded by life. Something inside me bloomed too, every few minutes in a good story, something must tug the heart. Here's that tug. One late evening, clouds gathered. Thunder rolled over the lake. Everyone rushed inside except me. I stood on the dock, letting the wind cool the heat in my cheeks from an earlier moment when Eli had accidentally brushed my fingers. Reaching for the same paddle, accident. Sure, but the way he pulled back, the way he swallowed softly, it felt like something. Then a voice behind me. Adam, I turned. Eli ran toward me in the rain, soaked, breathless, eyes wide. You shouldn't be out here, he said. Neither should you, I whispered. He laughed under his breath, then lightning flashed, and instinctively, or maybe not, he grabbed my wrist, warm, steady, firm. We need to go inside, he said, voice quiet, cracking almost imperceptibly. But we didn't move, we just stood there. Rain dripping down our faces, breath mingling, the storm turning everything electric. For one suspended moment, it felt like the entire world was holding its breath for us. Then a loud crack of thunder. He let go first. Come on, he whispered, but something had changed. We both felt it, we both pretended not to. Yet the storm had already done its work. To love someone, you must know their shadows, so here they are. Adrian's shadow, a family that wanted perfection. Perfect grades, perfect smile, perfect future, perfect son, a son who had never dated because he was too afraid of what or who he truly wanted. Eli's shadow, a boy who'd fallen in love once with a childhood friend who didn't feel the same, who left him with half a heart and a fear of opening the other half again. But Eli, he was light by nature. He healed quickly, he forgave easily. He trusted fully until trust hurt him. He never said it outright, but I saw it in his eyes sometimes. A quiet worry that if he reached out again, he'd only grasp empty air, maybe. That's why he moved slowly with me. Why he never pushed. Why every touch felt like a question. Are you ready? And every time my racing heart whispered back, almost. One golden evening, he invited me on a canoe ride. The lake looked like melted gold, birds skimmed the surface. The world felt soft and slow. Halfway across, Eli rested his paddle. Adam, he said softly, can I ask you something? My stomach tightened. Yeah, why do you look at me like you're afraid of something? And hopping for it at the same time, my heartbeat stuttered. I looked away at the water, at the sky, anywhere but at him. His paddle drifted. Our canoe rocked slightly closer. You don't have to say anything you're not ready for, he whispered, but something in me cracked. I've never felt this before, I admitted quietly. My whole life I've pushed things down, hopes, feelings, thoughts I didn't want to have, but being here, being with you, I can't push them down anymore. He moved closer, not touching, just near enough that his warmth wrapped around me. Hey, he whispered, you're safe. Breath escaped me, trembling, and you don't have to figure everything out tonight, he added, but the truth was, something had already been figured out. That night, back at the cabins, I sat on my porch, knees pulled up, hearts still racing from the canoe confession. Then I heard footsteps. Eli, he sat beside me quietly, leaving just an inch of space between us, car an inch that felt louder than thunder. The sky glowed with late evening lavender. He spoke first. Adam, I like being with you. My breath caught. I like being with you too, I whispered. He turned toward me. Slowly, deliberately, his knee brushed mine, a soft, warm touch that sent sparks up my spine. For a long moment, we just looked at each other, not with pressure, not with fear, just truth. He reached out, fingers trembling slightly, and touched my hand, just a touch, soft, careful, hopeful. My entire world tilted. His voice was barely a whisper. Is this okay? I nodded, unable to speak. He intertwined our fingers, and every unsaid thing between us finally had a voice. After minutes or hours, I couldn't tell. He leaned closer, not fast, not certain, just curious. The kind of closeness that makes breath mix. The kind that makes your heart think it's flying and falling at the same time. Adam, he murmured, voice cracking softly. I closed my eyes, and then a cabin door slammed somewhere behind us. We froze. He pulled back just slightly, breathless. Sorry, he whispered. No, I whispered back, don't be, but both of us knew it wasn't time yet. Almost. The people at Clearwater Ridge welcomed me like I'd lived there forever. Mrs. Collins, the bakery lady who always slipped me extra muffins, Mark and Serena, the couple running the cabins, who treated me like a nephew, even the teenagers at the lake who kept calling Eli and me the duo. For the first time in my life, I felt something solid under my feet, belonging. And Eli was the anchor of all of it. He introduced me to everyone. He checked on me every morning. He asked how I slept, how my heart was, how my breathing felt. No one had ever asked me things like that, not with that much care. 3 weeks into summer, on a breezy warm night, Eli stood outside my cabin, hands in pockets. Walk with me, he asked. We walked by the lake, moonlight shimmering on the surface like tiny stars. Halfway down the path, he stopped. Adam, I need to know something, he whispered. My chest tightened. Okay, when you look at me, what do you feel? His question wasn't pressure. It was an invitation. I swallowed hard. I feel safe, I said. First scene, and something else, he asked, voice soft, hopeful. I exhaled. You make me feel like I'm allowed to want things I was too afraid to want. He stared at me with wide, gentle eyes. Then he whispered, can I show you something? I nodded. He stepped closer. Slowly, slow enough for me to pull away. If I wanted, I didn't. He raised his hand, paused, then touched my cheek with the back of his fingers, soft, warm, careful. My breath hitched. Adam, he whispered, I like you. My heart burst open. Eli, I breathed. I liked you too. The world felt still, moonlight, warm air. His hand on my cheek, and then gently, slowly, he leaned in. His forehead touched mine, not a kiss, just a touch, a promise, a beginning, a moment where shadows finally met the light. It happened the next morning, unexpected, simple, perfect. We were helping Mrs. Collins arranged flowers outside her bakery. Eli kept brushing against me accidentally, Or accidentally. At one point, he handed me a small sprig of lavender for your cabin, he said. Softly our fingers touched, he didn't pull away, neither did I. Quiet warmths spread in my chest. I looked up, he was already looking at me, his eyes flicked to my lips for the briefest moment. My breath stalled. He stepped closer, slowly enough that I could step back. I didn't. His voice was barely a whisper. Is this okay? I nodded. He leaned in, and then in the warm morning sun, surrounded by lavender and the smell of fresh bread, he kissed me. Soft, barely there, a gentle brush of lips, sweet, warm, real. When he pulled back, he was blushing. So he murmured, smiling shyly, "That happened." I laughed under my breaths, heart racing wildly. "That definitely happened." He intertwined our fingers again, not hiding, not pretending, just existing together. The days that followed were filled with small things, sharing ice cream at the pier, canoe rides where he leaned against me lightly, long walks where he held my hand for a second too long, late night talks where he told me his dreams, late night silences where he let me speak my fears. Our romance was slow, soft, gentle, exactly the kind of love story that feels like sunlight drifting across wooden floors, exactly the kind of story people search for when they click. What happens when the shadows finally meet the light? True gay stories. But no love story is perfect, not even the gentle ones. As summer neared its end, reality crept in. I had to return home, back to expectations, back to uncertainty. One evening my fear spilled over. What if I lose all of this? I whispered. What if I lose you? Eli took my hands gently. You won't lose me, he said softly. I'm not going anywhere, but distance can't break something that's real, he whispered, voice cracking. I know, because I tried once and it didn't work. He lifted my chin. We can make this work, Adam. I wanted to believe him. I almost did, but fear is louder than love sometimes. On my last night, the entire town gathered for the summer farewell bonfire, but I couldn't enjoy it. I kept staring at Eli by the fire, laughing with friends, the glow lighting his face. I realized something that shattered me. I wasn't afraid of losing him. I was afraid I didn't deserve him. When he walked up to me, expressions softening as he saw my eyes, he said, "Talk to me." I shook my head, voice trembling. "I don't want to go." And don't, he whispered. "You know I have to." He nodded silently, pain flickered behind his eyes. "Okay," he whispered. "Then give me one thing, one promise." "Anything. Promise me this isn't the end." My voice cracked. "It's not," I whispered. "I promise." Pulled me into a hug. Long, warm, golden hour kind of hug. The kind that stays in your bones forever. The next morning at the bus stop, he stood beside me quietly. When the bus arrived, he took my hand. "One last time, warm, steady, sure. Text me when you get home," he whispered. "I will call me tomorrow. I will come back next summer." I smiled through tears. "Try and stop me." He leaned in and pressed a soft, lingering kiss to my forehead, a kiss filled with light, with hope, with everything that mattered. As I boarded the bus, "Hey, Adam," I turned. He smiled. "Shadows and light, remember?" I nodded, and then I said the line that would stay with us forever. When shadows meet the light, everything changes. He grinned. "Exactly." Doors closed, the bus pulled away, and I realized love wasn't just sunlight, it Was courage and I finally had it. People think the best gay love stories end with a kiss, but this one begins with one, because this isn't the end. This is the beginning of something bigger, a long-distance romance. A coming-out journey, a return to clear water edge, a future filled with new chapters I can tell you if you want them, and that is how I learned what happens when shadows finally meet the light. Want part 2? Will they get their happy ending? Comment part 2 if you want more. Like if this made your heart flutter. Subscribe for weekly gay romance stories.